Partnered by Times Influence.
Hello and welcome. India's electricity sector is going through a big churn. While most of our investments now are made in renewable energy, most of our electricity actually comes from fossil fuels, which means that after the US and China, India is the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world, which makes us vulnerable to flash floods and heat waves. So, like most other countries, we've promised to significantly reduce our carbon footprint. And this really is the essence of the dialogue here at Elecrama. How to provide green, clean, reliable energy to every Indian.
Elecrama is a great place for young companies to showcase their disruptive technologies that are saving man-hours and lives while undertaking jobs in more challenging terrains like this drone company.
A very big push for Make in India. We are here with someone who has something very interesting to tell us about drone technology.
Hello.
Hi Vallabha, tell us, what are these drones that we see behind us and what are the implications for drones in India's power sector?
We are very privileged to introduce this technology in India, and all we support this Make in India anthem actually, because when we see other countries are doing and we are ahead of this drone technology and they are going way beyond the expectations. So we had this idea with a bunch of engineers 2 years back, and we want to support this industrial applications by having different kinds of payloads and different kind of this drone technology. So particularly,
What does it do?
yeah, we'll start with the applications. There you can see these particular drones which we are showing here are meant to be manufactured for the industrial applications. Start with a thermal camera here. Coming to this transmission industry, once the transmission is completed, laying the conductor, when it comes to maintenance part, you'll be facing a lot of problems after 1 year or 2 years. So you don't know where the problem is. So once we deploy these drones with this kind of payloads, you can easily identify where the problem is in a very less time. Because if you use manpower, you don't know where the problem is, and there is a loss of life sometimes because touching the cables when it is running. Coming to the transmission, whenever you found valleys or river crossing or anything, it is very difficult for the transmission companies to do stringing actually. So with the part of idea of doing stringing with the drones, we'll carry the initial guidelines like 2 mm, 2.5 mm, 4 mm, and 8 mm guidelines in the rivers and valleys from one point tower to another point tower. So this will help the transmission industry to pull the different lines to complete the stringing.
Talking about Make in India, how much of this drone is made, conceptualized here?
The main part is inside. The flight controller, GPS, and the flying technology, the propulsion system is made in India by the group of engineers which have studied and graduated from the other countries, from Germany and Anna University in Chennai. And the frame, which is very less cost, can be made in other countries from Russia and China. We are importing it and we are assembling it with our technology in India.
Tell me, where are these drones being used right now in India?
In India, we are using it in different sectors, starting with mapping, surveillance, inspection. Particularly, we have done hundreds of kilometers of services for Sterlite Power, KEC and Kalpataru by using these drones. So most of the part we have done in power line stringing. Now we are looking ahead and forward to do for mapping and inspection too.
This is the 13th edition of Elecrama, 27 years of legacy now. It has grown over a period of time. It has grown from a simple exhibition to a multifaceted experience into all about electricity. So there is a World Utility Summit, there is a E-Tech Next, and there is a Engineers Infinite, and of course there is exhibition to see the future technologies also.
It's here that the sun meets the socket and the wind powers our dreams. If we want to save this planet for our children, if we want to reduce our carbon footprint, then renewable energy is the only way forward. But India has its own challenges because renewable energy forms only 18% of India's total energy mix. We have a long way to go. We have with us Mr. A.K. Saxena from TERI. So thank you very much for joining us and speaking to us about renewable energy. As we want to transition from fossil fuels to clean energy and renewables, what are the challenges that India faces?
The main challenge which we are facing in India today, because we have set an ambitious target of achieving a capacity of renewable capacity of 175 gigawatt. The degree of penetration of renewable energy as of now is of the order of 7%, and with this 175 gigawatt in next 4 years, by the end of March 2022, the degree of penetration would be of the order of 20 to 25%. And integration of such a quantum of renewables is the first and foremost challenge which comes to the mind.
So can renewable energy meet up the challenge of being as cheap as the energy that we get from coal?
Now the prices of renewable energy are coming down. We have already seen that the auctions in the solar as well as the wind sector have brought down the prices to a level where the renewable energy is almost very much competitive with the new coal-based plants, particularly the load center plants. But the issue with the renewable energy is that you can make use of it only when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. The real challenge there is then when we add the storage to the renewable energy, what does the actual cost become? And this is the real challenge. And we are all looking towards a day when the price of renewable plus the storage becomes competitive with the new fossil fuel based plants, and that would be the day when the renewable energy people will really embrace the renewable energy.
There are fears that, as we increase our investments into renewables, our conventional sources of energy will become non-competitive. What are your thoughts on it?
The conventional source of energy, because they constitute a large bulk of our electricity portfolio right now, and certainly they will have to be competitive with the emerging developments of the renewable energy, and when the renewable energy becomes competitive. So the issue for them is to see how do they manage the transitions and how do they prepare themselves for being able to be a source of cleaner energy. A lot of efforts are going in the conventional energy domain, wherein they are trying to meet the new environmental norms and regulations so that they are also contributing to the environment in their best possible manner.
No more diesel guzzling locomotives for Indian Railways. It wants to electrify its entire fleet in the next 4 years. To put it into perspective, right now 50% of its engines run on diesel, and if it electrifies, they will not only reduce their carbon footprint, but it will also save them crores of rupees. We are joined by Mr. Amitabh Nigam. He is a very senior rail official and he is going to speak to us about Rail Urja. So thank you very much for joining us and for your time. So can you tell us that the railway has set itself up for a very big challenge of 100% electrification by 2022. How are you proposing to meet it? Because, there is a lot of disbelief that the railway network will be electrified, the entire network, within that frame of time.
Okay, let me begin by telling you that the electrification of Indian tracks, the whole electrification, and a very ambitious program has been set up. For this, there are many aspects. The one aspect is to have enough material for the electrification for both overhead equipment and for power supply. Most of these equipments are RDSO approved, and I, as Executive Director Traction Installation, can tell you that the vendors who are available with us have got the declared capacity on an annual basis to sustain the electrification targets that we are going to meet. Still, we would be requiring more vendors, and that is precisely the reason that Elecrama is going to help us in a great way. We are meeting vendors of our interest in power supply and electrification. And as you have seen that there is a stream of vendors wanting to come and see that to know about the process of vendor approval, and so that is one part. The other part is once the approvals are there and once the vendors are there, they have the capacity, there is the execution. As you can see, the execution would be a time-taking process unless we go for mechanization. So then we are also into the field of mechanizing the whole thing, mechanizing foundations, mechanizing mast fitment, stringing and all that. So these two things would really give us the fillip for getting these electrification plans in time.
Coming up next, the World Utility Summit. What's it all about? We'll tell you after this break.
As we move in India into the 15th year.
The power or electricity that comes into our homes is generated and distributed by electric companies. These companies are utilities, and we are here at the World Utility Summit. So how does what happens here impact us as consumers? Let's find out.
As we move in India into the 15th year of our Electricity Act, exactly 15th year this is, we've come a long way from where we started. In the pre-Electricity Act era, the state used to play the role of a regulator as well as a policy maker. There has been a huge departure from that, and we see independent regulators in place. So to that extent, coming to today's topic of this panel discussion is how to enable more harmonious regulatory framework for utilities.
I find there is a hierarchy of instruments for harmonization in the law itself. Because harmonization, if it is left to individual personalities or individual institutions, it won't work. It needs some legal backing, but legal backing at the same time also leaving a lot of space for flexibility and innovation. If you make harmonization too tight, it will stifle innovation and also flexibility.
The challenges of the regulators has multiplied. The issues are, the technology breakthrough is there, technology changes are there, is happening continuously. We don't get a single day where we don't listen to anything new technologies coming in. That is the situation of the day. Whereas if you look back to Indian scenario, we are in a very primitive stage in some of the part of the country. We are a little bit developed in some part of the country, and maybe in a quite advanced stage in some of the cities like Mumbai, Kolkata, or some other places in the country. So it is a huge mixture of old, totally obsolete, no power available as such, to a highly sophisticated technology and support where we can think of it.
We will probably question a lot of or we are already questioning the whole system. We are much more starting from bottom up, and we are doing bottom up, which then leads to the overall security of supply. So we need more focus on things like demand-side management, and we have now also problems in Europe. How do we do with storage? Germany so far basically could do without storage, additional storage, I mean. Now it's getting more the crunch time, so we need to think about how you make it a business case to have good various storage models.
The words of FERC Commissioner, they echoed to me about universal value of energy, security, green power, universal access. And I think if we keep those as the primary objectives or goals, much easier for us to address some of these things.
Throughout the world, in the UK, in Europe, and in India, we're looking at an aging infrastructure, and particularly for well-developed energy networks, they're aging. If you haven't got a network, it's not going to age. But many of the networks in Europe, and particularly the UK, have been there a very long time, and therefore there are aging issues in terms of the assets. I think a very big opportunity for industry to actually think how would energy companies and manufacturers really want to take forward this new solution? The regulator has to be there, but the regulator can't define the future.
The question is,
Technology is revolutionizing power and electricity sector. Electrification and digitalization are uniting to create a smarter and more connected electric system. Elecrama 2018 hosted a panel discussion on the theme of racing with technologies to debate and discuss challenges pertaining to this revolution.
Going forward, we have to see how the environmental side and the electricity side work in tandem to see that the climate change challenge, especially through the mainstreaming of renewables, moves at a much faster pace.
These are the major things which NTPC is taking. And you know, in NCR region, the firing of heavy fuel oil is also banned, where it is traditionally the heavy fuel oil is used to start up the units and for support systems. So that also it's a big challenge for us. Actually, we have to modify the burners to eliminate the HFO. That also we are going ahead with the modification in not only NCR region, we are planning to implement all over the country.
So you need a strong government. You need to ensure a level playing field. But you need to protect your people.
When we talk of regulation, I come from an industry that is perhaps the most regulated industry in the world, and that also regulated by an arm of the United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Agency. And we have these three principal organizations which are really coordinating efforts all around the world, with the International Atomic Energy Agency essentially being the regulator.
The root malaise in the system really is cost of generation and the PPA structure in India with regard to electricity sector, right? The driver for the utility sector in India is very much the commercials of it, right? And if it makes sense to generate from coal, India in all likelihood will sort of continue to do that, right? And we have to figure out how best can we do that in a way that we are sort of responsible for all elements of the environment.
So environmental regulations, they add time, they add money, and they can impact your reputation if you don't, as a utility, take into proper consideration the environmental aspects. And in some cases, and this is something we've experienced, is they've simply stopped a project. And right now there's 50 gigawatts of underdeveloped hydro generation in Arunachal Pradesh alone. And a lot of this is simply stopped because of land issues, local opposition issues, what we kind of put under the broad umbrella of environmental regulations.
India is in the transformation era when it comes to the energy market. To address the challenges faced by the utilities market, Elecrama 2018 hosted a panel discussion on the theme of transportation, electrification, storage and reintegration nexus.
It's an extremely interesting topic if we talk about convergence of the utility industry, and even not only energies are growing together, but also industries are growing together. If I just look and what I observe also in Europe, big utilities, they are investing, for example, in an energy efficiency companies, or they are investing even in facility management. Of course, we ourselves, we are investing in e-mobility, and we are, and this is probably not a convergence, this is probably rather a diversification.
It is a business nowadays under a number of uncertainties. Uncertainties about the change of the energy supply development, uncertainties also on regulatory changes, so that might have a significant impact, and you need to be well prepared for that.
As far as customers are concerned, majority of utilities are not trusted by their customers. We certainly find that in Great Britain. We find that in a large parts of the world where we operate. The levels of trust with utilities and their customers is very, very poor.
We have been using the same assets
in the electrical business and in the power business and in the water business for the last, I think, generation. Technology is as old as 50s. Transformers were designed in 50s. Cable systems and switchgear were designed in 60s and 70s. Why is it that we as utilities are not getting these new technologies? I mean, we've heard a lot about smart grid technologies or the IoTs. These are all on papers. These are all IEEE publications. Why are we not getting all these technologies right on the ground and delivering us the benefit? There's a reason. There's a lack of convergence between the utility and the vendors and the suppliers. They don't talk to each other.
We've seen the cutting-edge technologies and we've heard from the experts. We've brought you the opportunities and the challenges that lie in wake for India's power sector. So from every one of us here at Elecrama 2018, goodbye.
Partnered by Times Influence.